There's a cosmically sized discussion about the Marvel Cinematic Universe's most recently released superhero film, Captain Marvel. With a central female character, criticisms arose around the characterization of Carol Danvers and what the studio was trying to make her stand for. The most eloquent argument I can find for this, and trust me, it took a long time to find one, was a Reason.com article in which Peter Sutterman makes the claim that Captain Marvel is a message movie without a message. In it, he echoes the claims of many who have contentions with the film, that creators gave her, in quotes, no personality traits beyond bland, low-key confidence, going on to state that superhero characters are supposed to be, and again in quotes, people you can imagine yourself being, or at least hanging out with, in the moments when they're not being superheroes. He then goes on to list a handful of male superhero characters to illustrate this point, stating that they are fun, funny, and distinct. Among the fallacies of the argument Peter and many others like him make, the one I want to highlight is the one that assumes the intended message of Captain Marvel is about the constructs of misogyny. Because as far as I was aware, and as far as those behind the Marvel Cinematic Universe like Kevin Feige were aware of, the genre had already been made to create a discussion about misogyny with DC's release of Wonder Woman. The ground was broken. There wasn't any reason to try and bulldoze new paths in that specific regard. Yet, the crusade against the inherently archetypal girl power and empowerment themes included in the film were what many decided to stick their guns to, as a somewhat large and very vocal group of individuals on social media planned to boycott the film in an effort to make a statement when the film's box office results came in, which I stand corrected. Maybe that group of people isn't very many people at all. Apart from any dent in any box office financial numbers, the thing about this is that it reveals an ignorance to the film's actual messaging, and maybe something more about the fundamentals the genre was built upon as superhero films transition even farther away from simply being spectacles of power fantasy. Even on sites like IO9, there's the realization that there are greater political statements that need to be discussed and analyzed in the film, yet apart from simple identification, there isn't a greater discussion that's provoked. Falling back on a thesis statement that while blockbuster entertainment isn't meant to be exactly thought-provoking, it still can tell us important things about our society, which is a very true and important factor to bring up. Just as politics influence pieces of cinema such as Sorry to Bother You or Black Klansman, there will always be messages and subtext in even the most commercialized pieces of art, because distilling it still provides a piece of expression made by humans. While it may not have the strong and demanding statements like the former examples I gave, it doesn't mean that subtext should be ignored in larger tentpole pieces. As well, I think it's safe to say that criticizing a message that isn't intended is almost like screaming into a mirror of which there are only your own character flaws being reflected. So in that case, what are these political statements, and how does Captain Marvel subtly, for a blockbuster, subvert with confidence in the face of misunderstanding? More importantly, what is there to analyze about the lack of discussion surrounding this? So, if you haven't seen Captain Marvel, I'm gonna spoil it now, so go leave your house and watch the movie. Stop boycotting it. Gonna have to get my summary voice on. In the film, Veers, played by Brie Larson, is a warrior who's unable to remember her past. She fights alongside a group of Kree, and they're framed to be a ragtag group of intergalactic soldiers that fight scary-looking and powerful alien races such as the Skrulls. It's a setup that we've seen in many stories and many mediums. The missions they find themselves in and the portrayal of their society makes for great eye candy. They aren't trying to serve a purpose greater than that from the initiation. The antagonists in the stories beginning, the Skrulls, first appeared when they headlined the second Fantastic Four comic published in 1962. Most commonly, their narratives, such as the one found in the recently published Secret Invasion, involve a group of the aliens meticulously taking over a fraction of the Earth's population with their own. To do this, they utilize their powerfully comprehensive ability to shapeshift, typically leading to event comics in which the remaining amount of Earth's heroes who didn't succumb to having their identity stolen must work together to face the adversity that slipped right under their noses. A quick aside, with even the most recent comics I mentioned, they aren't really designated to be much more than cannon fodder, tools to construct spectacular battle scenes that are coded in old science fiction tropes, which admittedly, to ask for anything more is a lot from general entertainment, I will admit. Anyway, back to the summary voice. Which leads us to the subversion from the comics, something that the MCU continues to accomplish very well, found in Captain Marvel, in which the Skrulls are constructed to be sympathetic characters, just refugees looking for a home, that they're victim to an imperialist regime that continues to destroy and colonize throughout the galaxy. Of course, that imperialist regime is the Kree, and the Skrulls are surely not the only race that have succumbed to its torrential cosmic reign. Veers finds herself throughout the film, being developed into a more coherent individual thanks to the perspective that the Skrulls impart to her on her mission on Earth, learning more about herself figuratively with her new outlook and finding herself literally as she uncovers the memories she lost, revealing her real identity as Carol Danvers, pilot who was abducted by the Kree. Danvers realizes her true potential as she faces the same group of intergalactic warriors she had been doing missions with at the beginning, providing a full character arc throughout the film. In an Esquire article by Jack Holmes about the President of the United States, Holmes highlights Trump's statements on the perceived invasion of illegal immigrants, bringing about drugs and criminals. The reality is that there is no invasion at the southern border. These caravans are primarily made up of women, children, and yes, men, fleeing violence and economic collapse in Central America. They want to declare themselves for asylum and get a hearing, as is their right by law. They are refugees and there is no national emergency. If you could distill the political statement of Captain Marvel into a simple handful of sentences, this would accurately sum up what Feige and everyone else at the company at Marvel is attempting to say. This is a powerful statement for a mass market product, especially considering the times that we currently live in. This also mirrors the efforts of Danvers' counterpart in the comics, Miss Marvel, a Muslim teenage girl named Kamala Khan. Her character is dynamic as she provides discussion on Islamophobia, speaking to how we can be more progressive as humans in our attitudes racially. This is of course wrapped up within a comic book that's targeted towards young adults, and when talking about the importance of characters, she ranks high on that scale. The normalization of characters and concepts for these are tools that eliminate prejudices, something which, considering recent events, is crucial. If I could speak to Mr. Sutterman with these contextual points, there might be the possibility to change his mind and allow him to see the constructive talking points of the film. As well, he could also be the one to bring up points that convince me that my own views have fallacies, so there's probably something to say about the dissonance of art discussion due to the separation of the internet, but that's a video for another time. Yet I feel as if I can't give his argument any more credence than that, since he ignores these thematic elements that are speaking to very important cultural issues such as immigration and colonialism, and instead reinforcing the thought that the film was created to be a statement on gender dynamics. There was an effort to make the story have a relevant and thought-provoking message that would both keep audiences interested by creating subversion, but also saying something important, and this should be at the very least identified. Despite being a blockbuster that follows a rigorous origin story structure, and that the surface might be something that we've seen before, the subtext within its subversion is where this real discussion should be. It's evident that while superhero movies have moved on from the purpose of the genre from its conception, parts of society definitely haven't. As the setup for a grander narrative in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is pushing itself to talk about the real issues that plague our current social climate, be prepared to see this more often. The statements are not only important for our world, since these films are some of the most broadly consumed pieces of entertainment, but it's also an effort to get fingers off the pulse of problematic genre trappings, something which evidently needs to be done. Hey guys, I just wanted to thank you so much for watching this video. I'm sorry if I come off as angry or condescending in this. It's not my intention at all, but I did notice that I could possibly be translated like that while going over the video. So I'm sure I'm gonna get some absolutely excellent comments on this video, so I'm very prepared for that. Huge shout out to my patrons who are currently going up right now as I speak. As well, I want to give a very big shout out to this month's producer, Mega Monse. Be sure to check out her Instagram in the description below. Anyway, next week I'm gonna have a very long and ambitious video about Death Note, so you're probably not interested in that, judging if you watched this video and any of my other ones, but I put a lot of heart into it, so it'd be cool if you check that out. Thank you again.